Welcome, I'm Sean MacDermott, Chief Instrument Flight Instructor at Vincennes University. In this video, you will learn how to obtain clearance and prepare for a safe IFR departure. The first step in departing in IFR conditions is to file an IFR flight plan. You can file a flight plan through an app such as ForeFlight or going to 1-800-WXBrief.com or by calling flight service at 1-800-WXBrief. Whatever method you use to file an IFR flight plan, the next step is to obtain your IFR clearance using that flight plan. The way that you obtain your clearance will vary depending on the airport you are departing from. If you're at a major airport, like a Class Bravo or a Class Charlie airport, the airport will usually have a clearance delivery frequency. That means that there is an air traffic controller whose job is primarily to give ATC clearances by first obtaining those clearances from the local Air Route Traffic Control Center and then giving them to the pilots who are requesting the clearance. If you're at a satellite airport of one of these major airports, you will likely have access to that clearance delivery through a discrete frequency for your airport or through a ground communications outlet that uses a hybrid radio telephone system where the pilot clicks a mic so many times and it rings a phone to the clearance delivery controller. You obtain your clearance using the GCO the same way that you would if you were talking to them on the radio. If you're at a more remote airport, a Class Echo or a Class Golf airport that is far removed from a terminal radar approach control area, then it's likely you'll have to obtain your clearance using your phone. Air traffic control no longer wants us to obtain IFR clearances by calling flight service, so you will use the phone number that's published in the chart supplement for that airport and call the applicable Air Route Traffic Control Center for your clearance. Be aware that if you're using your telephone, there are remote areas where cell phone service may not be available, and you may not be able to call from your airplane. If you're fortunate enough to have Bluetooth in your airplane, you can use this method in a very similar way to how you would use your radio. Otherwise, you may have to use a landline in the FBO. In that case, after obtaining clearance, you will need to go out to your airplane, start it, make the necessary checks, and then prepare for departure. In such cases, there may be restrictions to your IFR clearance, and you should let the controller know if it will be some time before you're ready to depart. ATC can issue release times or void times or both. A release time means that you may not take off on your IFR clearance until a specified time. A void time means that you can no longer take off after that time. If you have a release time and a void time, make sure that your departure occurs between these two. If you cannot depart by your void time, you need to contact ATC and obtain a new IFR clearance. Regardless of how you obtained your IFR clearance, there will be specifics in how you will depart from the airport. For Part 91 General Aviation Operators, you're not required to depart according to any obstacle departure procedures, although you may decide that that would be the most appropriate thing for you to do. You're also not required to use Standard Instrument Departure Procedures, commonly called SIDs. However, if ATC assigns you an ODP or assigns you a SID, it becomes mandatory for you to use it, and you need to make sure that you can comply with those requirements. If you don't want to fly a SID or cannot comply with one's requirements, make sure that you include no SIDs in the remarks section of your flight plan. Regardless, do not accept a clearance you cannot comply with. Obstacle departure procedures may include complex climb requirements, such as a certain number of feet per nautical mile. They could include weather requirements, such as not being able to use a specified departure unless the ceiling and visibility are sufficient. Other restrictions include things like the ATC radar needs to be operational in order to be able to use the procedure, or the departure may only be used by turbine aircraft. You should check to confirm that you can meet any requirements that are listed on the departure procedure. Once you've obtained your clearance and you are certain you can depart according to the requirements of the procedure, it's then a matter of departing according to the clearance and ensuring that you are complying with its requirements. If while you're departing according to this clearance, you contact ATC and they give you a new assignment, then you can fly that assignment. But until you obtain a new clearance, you need to make sure that you are complying with the requirements listed in the procedure. From there, you can expect either radar vectors or ATC to send you to a specified fix. Then you will join your departure procedure and continue according to its routing until you reach the end of the procedure or its transition. From there, you will navigate according to the clearance received for the remainder of the flight. Thank you for joining me to learn how to prepare for an IFR departure. Look for our other videos for additional safe takeoff, flight, and landing procedures.